Stop making your cold brews with cheesecloths because this is one of the easiest and smoothest ways to make low acidity, delicious cold brews, and we're talking even dark roasts, right at home, and surprisingly lots of clarity. And that's all thanks to its dual ultra fine mesh, and it's pretty foolproof. Don't need expensive gear for it. Even a $100 hand grinder will work perfectly well. I have been brewing this for pretty much 24 hours now. Give it a good mix. It's almost summer, and for me that means terraces, which is a patio, sun, pool, enjoying cold refreshing beverages such as a cold brew. I've made cold brews before in the past. I used a cheesecloth because I didn't have any gear for it. It was kind of annoying to use, but it worked. Lafeeca asked me if I wanted to review their cold brew container, and I was very curious. No money was exchanged for this review, and they have no say in it whatsoever. And it wasn't what I expected, in a good way. I made some interesting drinks that involves maple syrup and lime. I'm gonna share that later. Cold brew is an immersion-based drink. Have it straight out of the fridge, enjoy it, refreshing. Because you are brewing it colder, it is going to be less acidic. It's gonna be a bit smoother and more mellow. So if hot coffee upsets your stomach, maybe a cold brew could be a drink for you. If you don't need as good quality of a grinder, you don't need like a fancy espresso grinder, which is going to cost a lot more because this is gonna be very coarse compared to every other grind. Like, it's going to be even slightly coarser than a French press, or you can even just grind it like a French press. You can use like inexpensive coffees in this and still have a really good flavor and enjoy it quite well. And you can use medium to dark roast in this. Actually, medium to dark roast is better in this than a light roast. A light roast, you're just not gonna really get those nuances and extractions and flavor, in my opinion. You won't really get it as much out of this. I haven't drank dark roast for a long time, especially as an espresso, but in here I quite enjoyed it. It brought a different flavor profile that I hadn't experienced before. There is a downside though. If you are impatient, this is going to take something like, let's say 18 to 24 hours to brew. This is gonna give you a ready-made drink, not a cold brew concentrate. What's really great too with cold brew is that it's not as expensive to make. So this itself is 34 USD at the time of review. Lots of things are changing in the world. Please check the description for the latest prices and have a 15% discount code, so that can help you save a little bit of money. So it does give me a little bit of a kickback as well, which is an easy way to support the channel. That's gonna lower this price. Very minimal branding on it. Looks super elegant, like very Scandinavian, clean lines. The cold brew device is composed of 3 different components. The lid, which has an airtight seal and gasket with a nice stainless steel here to open up to pour. When you're done pouring, let whatever liquid is in there just pour out. I also like that the lid is designed to stop right where the handle is. There's something that they did that blocks right there. So it always looks perfectly aligned, which is a small but good design detail. And then you have the container, of course. This is a BPA-free, food-safe, high-quality Tritan plastic, shatter resistant, and it is also odor resistant. If you accidentally knock it on a counter, you won't chip your counter and you won't break this. This has happened to me quite a few times, being inattentive and knocking it on the counter. No damage. I asked them about glass. They said that it would have made the product more expensive. It feels very well made. You have this wood handle. I'm not sure if it's real wood. It feels almost rubberized, and there's like a sheen, interesting looking, and it feels great to touch. It looks great. Some markings on the outside which will help you when you're filling up your water. There are 2 sizes and they gave them different names, which I thought was a little bit confusing. So I got some clarification on that. This is the smaller one at 51 ounces. The other one is 68 ounces. You could technically do both with both, but then it'll just make this one, for when it comes to cold brew anyway, this will be stronger and the other one will be less strong. If you're like, I don't really know what you're talking about, I just want to get one, which one should I get? Just get the 51 ounce. It's cheaper and you can still use it for iced fruit teas. The second part of this is the ultra fine mesh filter, dual filter. So you'll see that on one side, the holes are a little bit bigger, and on the other side, the holes are a little bit smaller. It's 600, how many wires there is per linear inch. When I was looking at a bunch of different other cold brew containers and devices online, I didn't see a single one that was 600. The highest I found was 350. That doesn't come close to the fine mesh in here. The openings on the ultra fine mesh is somewhere between like 20 to 25 microns, and on a cheesecloth, of grade 90 cheesecloth, we're looking at somewhere between 90 to 125 microns. it will filter about 3 times more easily than a cheesecloth. This is gonna give you more clarity, less texture. There's a little bit of liquid that you won't be able to get out. That's usually what has a little bit of the sediment at the end. Just like pour naturally until you can't pour anymore. That's pretty much the end. And then you're going to have a little bit extra at the bottom. That's by design. The last cup would have a tiny little bit more texture. But otherwise, every other cup I had was super clear. Now the filter, they recommend to change, like it could last up to like 6 months, but all these reusable coffee filters that are made out of metal, you're supposed to replace them because there can be a buildup of the coffee oils as well as acidity can wear down, but they do sell the replacement filters on their own. It is stainless steel, so that is very, very recyclable. It's 100% recyclable if you drop it off at the right place. So check with your local city, see what the recycling is like. But better yet, if you can find an eco center near you or a recycling facility you can bring it directly to, that would be the best way to recycle this, kind of guilt-free. And yes, that is what I do. It's very annoying because I end up bunching a bunch of stuff in my house that I have to drop off at an eco center, but eventually I make my way there. And before you replace the filter, you could always give it a deep clean and see if that helps. Soak it with warm water and some baking soda for like an hour and give it a good rinse, and maybe that will help clear out. When you do handle the filter, I would suggest handling at the top or at the very bottom, just in case you end up squeezing it a little too hard when you're unscrewing or screwing the filter lid. It gives surprisingly clear results. The coffee that comes out of it is mellow, low acidity. It's so smooth tasting. I had a dark roast at a friend's business, classic Italian dark. And I brewed that coffee in here and made people try in the office, and they were all like blown away by the difference of the coffee flavor. And we're talking espresso versus cold brew, so very different drinks as well, but the same bean. Made the dark roast almost like juicy and softer flavors that I normally wouldn't have tasted before. Surprisingly delicate even in flavor. There's just something in my brain that thinks, first of all, dark roast and letting it sit for several hours is gonna come out just very bold and intense, and that was not the case. I drank it straight, which I really like. It's also really good with a splash of milk or a little bit of sugar, whatever, however you like your drinks. With this bean in the cold brew, I found that it had a little bit of acidity. When it first hit the tongue, it didn't quite linger there. I didn't get as much of the bright flavors and as interesting flavors as I do with darker roasts. I find that this cold brew device works really well with darker roasts, and maybe that's just a preference thing, but I find that the brighter flavors work better in espresso. It's pretty hard to mess up and have really bad tasting coffee, unlike an espresso. When you're done with all of this, you can just clean all of it under water, give it a good scrub, especially the filter. You can throw parts of this device into the dishwasher. The lid is not dishwasher safe. The handle is not dishwasher safe. So you can throw the container and the mesh in the dishwasher. To make the coffee, very easy. I went with a 1:15 ratio, which is 90 grams of coffee. I use my TimeMore 078S, which is an all-purpose grinder. I have a discount code in the description as well. I'm working on a review. For the brew ratio, 1:12 or 1:15 is a good number to go with. I went with 1:15. When you're looking at the mark at the very top, that's actually 1350. So if you want easy math, 90 grams of coffee, you do 1:15 ratio, you fill it all the way to the top where the black line ends. I use my Lark dual filtration filter for my water, then put 90 grams of coffee into my mesh filter, close it all up. I'd suggest giving the pitcher a little swirl just to make sure that the grounds are wet, then letting it rest for 12, 18, or 24 hours or more. Taste it at different times and see what works best. I find 24 hours works best. At the 15-hour mark, it was a little weak. At the 24-hour mark, it was close to 22%, so very well extracted. Easy math, I just leave it for 24 hours. I brew it room temperature warm. You can brew it in the fridge, but that will slow down your brewing process a little bit. So it's up to you to experiment and see. If you want even less acidity, you can brew it in the fridge. Once the brew is done, do take out the filter, empty it, clear out the coffee, compost it. Use this as your container for your cold brew, and you store it in the fridge. and it can last up to 2 weeks because it has that airtight container. I left it in the fridge for a week, drank it periodically, shared it with some friends. It tasted fantastic. A week later, it didn't make it to 2 weeks. So I don't have the experience at 2 weeks. And I've made iced tea in here as well, and it lasted in the fridge for a week, no issues, tasted fantastic, great as well. I didn't follow the instructions, like pouring the water into the carafe after you place the filter with the coffee in it, which I don't think it makes a difference because at the end of the day, I prefer doing it my way because I could properly measure out the water in the container before putting in the filter and the coffee. And this is what I mean by it's foolproof. As long as you have enough coffee grounds that are sitting in water for a long enough time, you're gonna have delicious tasting coffee. Some fun drinks to try. So when I was at a cottage with some friends, we had lime sitting around because we were, making cocktails the night before. And then we had maple syrup because we always have maple syrup. So we made this drink, Peruvian person that told me about this. There's a drink called refresco de cebada. That translates to barley soda, a drink that from north of Peru, and it is a barley that they roast really dark. I'm quoting her, she said we add lime, we add sugar, sometimes we add grated pineapple. This is the recipe, but feel free to taste and try it with your own flavor. This is gonna be a summer hit of mine. I know I'm gonna be drinking this a lot with my friends by the pool. A cup of cold brew coffee, a splash of lime, like half of a lime, the juice of half of a lime, then a little bit of sugar to taste. In my case, we use maple syrup, but any type of syrup sugar, don't use granulated sugar. You're probably gonna struggle to obviously incorporate that in there because it's cold. And that combination, especially with like a darker roast, it adds this level of complexity and fun and refreshingness that is just not something that I expected to enjoy. And another great use for this is iced fruit teas. So I'm gonna leave a couple of recipes in the description for you to look at. You could play around with those recipes as you wish. I really liked it. I never thought of making my own iced fruit teas. It was like my own version of Fruitopia, one of those drinks, I mean, that drink is pure sugar because there's like no more fiber because you've just used an ultra fine mesh to filter it, but delicious, very delicious. And homemade, which is really cool. If you love cold brew or you want to try a new drink, this is for you. If you are making cold brews with cheesecloth and you're super happy with it and you don't want to spend more money, great, stick with the cheesecloth, do what's working for you. If you want something that's really going to give you lots of clarity and has good filtration system, then this is a great thing to look into. It's similarly priced to the other cold brew devices on the market, and you're getting more for your money with the high filtration, and unlike many others, you can buy a replaceable filter. You're also getting US-made Tritan plastic, which is a top quality plastic that's currently available. If you're like, I don't really like cold brew, but I do like something more filter-like, I do have a review for a kettle from the same brand for your pour-overs, a gooseneck kettle, which you could check out right here. But this video may also be of interest to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.